I spent 7 years telling men they were the problem. I built a career explaining how toxic masculinity poisoned every interaction, how patriarchy made men fundamentally incapable of emotional intimacy, how women deserved better than what men could offer. My name is Rachel, and I was a feminist dating coach with 400,000 followers. I charged women $500 an hour to help them navigate relationships with problematic men. Then I made one decision that changed everything. I went undercover as a man on dating apps for 1 month. What I discovered didn't just challenge my beliefs. It shattered them completely. This is the story of how I learned that the dating crisis isn't what I thought it was. And the men I'd been blaming? They weren't the villains of this story. They were the casualties. 3 years ago, I was at the height of my influence. My Instagram was filled with posts about red flags, boundary setting, and why women should never compromise their standards. My most popular video had 8 million views. The caption read, "If he wanted to, he would. Stop making excuses for mediocre men." The comments were always the same. Thousands of women thanking me for validating their decision to end relationships, to swipe left, to demand more. I felt like I was doing important work, teaching women they deserved effort, consistency, emotional availability. My coaching practice was booked solid. Women would come to me frustrated and exhausted from dating. They'd describe men who were emotionally unavailable, who wouldn't commit, who didn't try hard enough. And I'd nod knowingly, reinforcing what they already believed: the problem was men. I had a framework for everything. If he didn't text back within 2 hours, he wasn't interested. If he suggested splitting the bill, he was low value. If he didn't plan elaborate dates, he lacked initiative. If he had mostly female friends, red flag. If he had no female friends, bigger red flag. My signature workshop was called Screening for High-Value Men. I taught women to filter ruthlessly, to maintain impossibly high standards, to never settle. I had acronyms, checklists, scoring systems. I made dating sound like a job interview where only the top 1% of applicants deserved consideration. And the data seemed to support me. Women would come back to tell me they'd ended relationships after discovering their boyfriends didn't meet my criteria. They'd thank me for saving them from wasting time. I collected these stories like trophies. My podcast episode, "Why 96% of Men Aren't Relationship Material," went viral. I explained how most men were simply unworthy of modern women. They hadn't done the work, they were emotionally stunted, they wanted traditional benefits without traditional responsibilities. I had 47 different reasons why women should reject men. I never once questioned whether those reasons made sense. I thought I was helping women avoid bad relationships. I didn't realize I was helping them avoid all relationships. The idea came from my producer, Jenna, during a brainstorming session. We were planning content for my YouTube channel, looking for ways to prove my theories about male behavior. "What if you made a fake male profile?" she suggested. "You could document all the ways women have to deal with terrible men on apps. Show your audience what they're up against." I loved it. It felt like undercover journalism. I'd create a profile as an average guy and document all the toxic behavior women faced. It would be perfect content, proof that my warnings about men were justified. We created Connor. Mid-30s, software engineer, decent photos my photographer friend helped stage. I wrote a thoughtful bio mentioning hiking, cooking, and looking for genuine connection. We deliberately made him normal. Not a model, not rich, just a regular guy who seemed kind and stable. I expected Connor to get matches with women who'd quickly reveal their own shallow preferences, proving that everyone on apps was superficial. I'd expose the system from the inside. What I didn't expect was the silence. The first day, I swiped right on 50 women who seemed compatible. 0 matches. I thought it was a glitch. The second day, another 50. 1 match, a bot selling cryptocurrency advice. By day 4, I'd swiped right on 200 women. Matches, 3. 1 unmatched immediately. 1 never responded. 1 sent a message, Are you really 5 feet 11 inches, or is that code for 5 feet 9 inches? I told Jenna this was perfect content, it showed how broken the apps were. But privately, I felt something I wasn't expecting: rejection. And it stung. By the end of week 1, I had 5 real matches out of 400 swipes. The women who matched either didn't respond or asked questions that felt like interrogations. 3 asked my income in the first message. 2 asked my height in different units, like they were trying to catch me lying. One conversation haunted me. What do you do for fun? I like hiking, trying new restaurants, reading. I'm learning guitar. That's basic. Every guy says that. What makes you different? I stared at that message for 20 minutes. What was Connor supposed to say? I'd crafted him to be genuine, but genuine wasn't interesting. She unmatched before I could respond. This wasn't the content I'd planned. This was something else entirely. Week 2 is when it really hit me. I was logging into Connor's profile every few hours, compulsively checking for matches like I was checking for validation of my own worth. And that's when I realized, this is what it feels like. This is what millions of men experience every single day. I'd spent years telling women that if a man was quality, he'd have options. That scarcity mindset was low value. That men who complained about dating apps were probably the problem. But Connor wasn't the problem. His profile was better than most I'd seen. His photos were clear, smiling, approachable. His bio was specific and genuine. He was invisible anyway. I started swiping more deliberately, really reading women's profiles. And I started noticing something disturbing. The requirements. The filters. The non-negotiable lists. Must be 6 foot plus, I'm 5 feet 2 inches in heels and it matters. 6 figures minimum. I know my worth. If you have kids, swipe left. Not interested in baggage. Adventure seekers only. If you're not traveling constantly, we won't vibe. Must be emotionally available but also have your life together. No fixer-uppers. Profile after profile read like a job posting for a position that didn't exist. And these weren't outliers, this was the majority. Women who were objectively average demanding men who were exceptional in every category. But here's what really got me, I recognized the language. These were my phrases. My frameworks. My teachings. I was reading my own words reflected back at me through hundreds of profiles. I know my worth. I'd taught them that. No settling. I'd made that their mantra. High-value men only. I'd created that filter. I spent hours analyzing Connor's matches versus his swipes. He swiped right on women of all heights, body types, professions. He was genuinely open. But women were filtering him out before even seeing his profile. His height was 5 feet 11 inches, not 6 foot plus. That was it. Hundreds of potential connections eliminated by 1 inch. The few matches I got, I tried to treat like experiments in empathy. I responded quickly but not too quickly, because I'd taught women that overeagerness was desperate. I asked questions but not too many, because I'd taught them that interrogation was an interview, not a conversation. I was witty but not too jokey, because I'd taught them that men who didn't take things seriously were emotionally unavailable. I was following all the unspoken rules I'd helped create. And I was failing anyway. One woman matched with Connor and immediately sent a message, "Okay, you're cute but I need to know, income, relationship history, why your last relationship ended, views on marriage and kids, and what you're looking for. Don't waste my time if we're not aligned." I stared at that message. This was a screening interview, not a human interaction. And I'd taught women to do exactly this. To protect their time, to filter efficiently, to treat dating like a strategic process rather than an organic connection. Connor never got a chance to be a person. He was a data point to be evaluated and discarded. On day 19, I matched with a woman named Sophie. She was 29, a teacher, her profile mentioned loving bookstores and coffee shops. She seemed kind. Normal. Real. She messaged first, "Hi. Your profile made me smile. Tell me something that's been making you happy lately." It was the first time anyone had asked Connor a question that treated him like a human being. I almost cried. We messaged for 3 days. She was funny, thoughtful, genuine. For the first time in the experiment, I felt hope. This was what connection could feel like when people approached each other with openness instead of suspicion. Then she asked for Connor's Instagram. I'd created one, carefully curated photos of the life I'd imagined for him. Hiking trips, dinners with friends, a golden retriever. She went quiet for 6 hours. Then, "Hey, I did some thinking. You seem really nice, but I don't think we're compatible. You seem like you have a simple life, and I'm looking for someone more ambitious. I hope you understand." I read that message 20 times. Connor had a good job, interesting hobbies, a rich life. But it was simple. Translation: not impressive enough. Not extraordinary enough. Not enough to post about. I asked what she meant by ambitious. She explained, someone who's building something. A business owner, an entrepreneur, someone making moves. You know, high value. There it was again. My language. My framework. I'd taught women that men with regular jobs were settling. That ambition meant entrepreneurship. That stability was boring. Sophie was a teacher making $45,000 a year. Connor was a software engineer making $120,000. But he wasn't ambitious because he was an employee, not a founder. The double standard was staggering. And I'd helped build it. I thanked her for her honesty. She replied, "You're taking this really well. Most guys get so angry when I reject them. You're definitely one of the good ones. You'll find someone." The irony was suffocating. Connor was one of the good ones, but still not good enough. That night, I logged into my real Instagram and saw I'd posted a story earlier that day: "Stop entertaining men who aren't excited about you. If he's not pursuing you consistently, he's not the one." I'd posted that while waiting for Sophie to respond to Connor. While experiencing exactly what it felt like to be someone who was almost good enough but not quite. The cognitive dissonance was crushing. After the Sophie situation, I did something I should have done years ago. I started actually listening to men. I joined men's forums, subreddits, Discord servers. Places where men talked honestly about dating when they thought women weren't listening. I expected to find the toxic masculinity I'd built my career describing. The entitlement, the anger, the misogyny. Instead, I found exhaustion. One post had 3,000 upvotes. "I'm done." I spent $2,000 on dating apps over 2 years. 437 matches. 89 conversations. 12 first dates. 1 second date. 0 relationships. I make good money, I'm in shape, I'm in therapy. It's not enough. I'll never be enough. I'm 33 and I've accepted I'll die alone. The comments weren't bitter. They were sad. Defeated. Men sharing similar statistics, similar stories. They'd tried everything: better photos, interesting bios, witty openers, thoughtful questions. Nothing worked. These weren't men refusing to self-improve. They were men who'd improved themselves into exhaustion and still faced constant rejection. I read hundreds of these posts over 2 weeks. Common themes emerged. Men describing getting matches, putting effort into conversations, asking engaging questions, and getting one-word responses before being ghosted. Men who made it to dates describing women who seemed disappointed the moment they met, like they were expecting someone taller, more charismatic, more impressive. Men who'd been in relationships describing girlfriends who constantly compared them to exes, to celebrities, to hypothetical better versions of themselves. One man wrote, "My girlfriend told me she loved me but wasn't in love with me because I wasn't enough of an alpha presence. We'd been together 3 years. She'd been watching female dating coaches on TikTok for 6 months. She said a coach helped her realize she was settling. I was supporting her through grad school, cooking dinner every night, planning thoughtful dates. It wasn't enough. I felt sick. That could have been my content. That probably was my content. Another post, I'm 5 feet 8 inches, make $75,000 as a teacher, and volunteer with kids every weekend. I'm financially stable, emotionally available, and genuinely ready for partnership. I haven't had a match in 4 months. Meanwhile, my roommate who treats women terribly has 3 girlfriends fighting over him. He's 6 feet 2 inches and works in finance. That's the only difference. The comments confirmed it. Height and income had become such rigid filters that men were being eliminated before their character even mattered. I kept thinking about advice I'd given clients: never settle for a man under 6 feet. It shows you have standards. I'd said that hundreds of times. I'd never once considered the cumulative effect of hundreds of dating coaches saying the same thing. The statistics were everywhere once I looked. 89% of women filtered men under 6 feet. Only 14.5% of men were 6 feet or taller. The math was impossible. I read posts from men who'd given up entirely. They weren't angry activists or woman haters. They were guys who'd done the cost-benefit analysis and decided the emotional toll of constant rejection wasn't worth it. They'd chosen video games, hobbies, friendships, and peace over the soul-crushing experience of being deemed inadequate over and over. Giving up was the best decision I ever made, one post read. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not sad anymore. I just accepted that I'm not what women want, and that's okay. I have a good life. I have friends, a dog, a career I enjoy. I don't need romantic love to be happy. The replies weren't challenging him. They were agreeing. Congratulating him on finding peace. I closed my laptop and cried. I'd spent 7 years teaching women that these men weren't good enough. That their peace was unacceptable, they should be fighting harder, improving more, becoming worthy. I'd never once considered that maybe they were already worthy. And we'd collectively decided they weren't. I couldn't continue the Connor experiment. On day 28, I deleted the profile. Final statistics: 847 right swipes, 34 matches, 11 conversations, 0 dates. Connor had done everything right and gotten nowhere. Not because he wasn't worthy, but because the system I'd helped build had made men like him invisible. I spent the next month doing something I'd never done. I interviewed men. Real conversations, not ambush journalism trying to expose their flaws. I talked to 43 men between ages 28 and 42. Every conversation broke my heart a little more. James, 35, accountant, I gave up 2 years ago. I'd send thoughtful messages referencing things in women's profiles. Maybe 1 in 20 would respond. Usually with one word. I felt like I was bothering them by existing. Marcus, 31, nurse, women would match with me and then immediately ask what I do. When I said nurse, half would unmatch. The other half would make jokes about male nurses or ask when I was going to become a doctor. My job is respectable. I help people. But it's not impressive enough. David, 29, high school teacher, I love my job. I'm good at it. I make enough to live comfortably. But on apps, I'm a punchline. Women see teacher and assume I'm broke or unambitious. I've had women tell me I'd be attractive if I just got a real career. These weren't bitter manifestos. These were matter-of-fact descriptions of defeat. They'd internalized that they were the problem. But the interview that destroyed me was with Alex. 33, social worker, genuinely one of the kindest humans I'd ever met. He spent his days helping trauma survivors. He made $52,000 a year and considered it a worthy sacrifice to do meaningful work. I went on a date last year, he told me. Only one I've had in 3 years. She was nice until she asked what I do. I told her I'm a social worker. She literally said, "Oh. So you're poor." I explained I make enough, I love my work, it's important to me. She said, "That's admirable, but I'm looking for a provider, not a charity case." She left before the food arrived. He said it without anger. Just acceptance. I'm 33. I've accepted I'll probably never get married or have kids. Women don't want men like me anymore. And that's okay. I'm at peace with it. But his eyes weren't peaceful. They were resigned. I asked all 43 men the same question: if you could change one thing about modern dating, what would it be? Not a single one said women should have lower standards. Not one complained about women wanting successful men or having preferences. The most common answer? I wish women would see me as a human being first, and a resume second. They didn't want to be handed relationships. They wanted a chance. An opportunity to be known before being filtered out. To have their character matter as much as their height. I'd spent years teaching women to evaluate men like products. To filter ruthlessly, to maintain impossibly high standards, to treat dating like quality control. I'd never once considered what it felt like to be the product that kept getting rejected. I posted a video 2 months ago titled "I Was Wrong About Modern Dating." I explained the Connor experiment, shared what I'd learned, apologized for the harm my advice had caused. The response was divided. Half my audience turned on me viciously. I was called a pick-me, a traitor, a woman who'd betrayed feminism for male approval. My comments filled with accusations. I'd been paid by men's rights activists, I'd never been a real feminist, I was setting women back decades. My coaching clients dropped by 70%. Speaking engagements cancelled. Sponsors pulled out. The feminist publications that used to feature me now wrote articles criticizing my dangerous reversal. But the other half sent messages that made me cry. I've been single for 6 years following advice like yours. I rejected 14 men for stupid reasons. Last month I matched with a guy who was 5 feet 9 inches and almost swiped left because of your height rule. I didn't. We've been dating for 6 weeks. He's the kindest person I've ever met. I almost missed him because of an inch. I make $200,000 and only dated men who made more. Know how many men make more than $200,000? Not many. And the ones who did were terrible partners because they had endless options. I'm now dating a teacher who makes $60,000. He's thoughtful, present, and actually shows up. I was filtering for the wrong things. I destroyed a 5-year relationship because my ex was only 5 feet 10 inches and didn't read feminist theory. I've been miserable ever since. Your apology made me reach out to him. We're talking again. I don't know if he'll forgive me, but I had to try. The messages from men were even harder to read. Thank you for saying this. I've spent 3 years thinking I was fundamentally unworthy of love. Hearing you explain what's actually happening helps me believe maybe I'm not the problem. I'm 5 feet 7 inches and gave up on dating 2 years ago. Your video made me cry. Someone finally sees us. I'm a teacher. I've had women laugh at my job. Your video helped me understand it's not about my worth. The filters are just broken. I cried reading these. Not cathartic tears, guilty ones. These men had internalized inadequacy because people like me taught women they were inadequate. I still have my platform, though it's smaller now. I use it differently. I don't tell women to lower their standards. I tell them to examine whether their standards are about actual compatibility or about checking boxes that might not matter. Height matters for some people, that's valid. But if you're 5 feet 2 inches and filtering out everyone under 6 feet 0 inches, maybe ask yourself why. Is it genuine preference or social conditioning? Income matters for financial security, that's reasonable. But if you make $60,000 and refuse to date anyone making less than $150,000, maybe ask yourself what you're actually looking for. Partnership or status? I talk about the difference between preferences and requirements. Between deal breakers and nice-to-haves. Between compatibility and perfection. Most importantly, I talk about something I never did before: empathy. Every person you swipe left on is a human being. Someone's son, brother, friend. Someone who might be lonely, who might have spent an hour crafting a message to you, who might be one rejection away from giving up entirely. You don't owe anyone a relationship. You don't owe anyone a response. But maybe we collectively owe each other more humanity in how we treat people while dating. The men who are giving up. They're not giving up because they're lazy or entitled. They're giving up because the emotional cost of constant rejection is too high. Because being treated like a defective product over and over destroys self-worth. Because peace alone feels better than hope followed by disappointment. I'm in a relationship now. He's 5 feet 9 inches, a high school teacher, makes $58,000 a year. By my old standards, I would have swiped left immediately. He's also the kindest, most emotionally available, most genuinely loving partner I've ever had. He plans thoughtful dates on a teacher's budget. He listens without trying to fix. He's secure enough in himself that my success doesn't threaten him. I almost missed him. 3 years ago, I would have filtered him out before we even matched. The old me would have been alone, waiting for a 6 feet 3 inches entrepreneur who would have treated me terribly because he had 200 other options. The real reason men are giving up on dating isn't because they're bad men who refuse to improve. It's because we've collectively built a system that treats average as inadequate and good as not good enough. We've told men they need to be 6 feet tall, 6 figures income, 6-pack abs. We've called it knowing your worth and refusing to settle. But we've forgotten that on the other side of every swipe left, every unanswered message, every "you're great but not for me" text, is a real person whose confidence erodes a little more. The men giving up aren't the enemy. They're the casualties of a dating culture that's become impossibly demanding. And women aren't winning either. The loneliness epidemic is real. Depression and anxiety among single women are at all-time highs. We're filtering for perfection and ending up alone. If you're a woman who's been following advice like my old content, I want you to ask yourself, are your standards helping you find partnership, or are they protecting you from it? If you're a man who's given up, I want you to know, you're not inadequate. The system is broken, not you. And if you're someone who still has hope, who's still trying, who's still showing up authentically despite the rejection, keep going. But also, be kind to yourself. This isn't easy for anyone. Maybe the revolution we need isn't women maintaining impossible standards or men giving up entirely. Maybe it's all of us choosing to see each other as humans first, and as filtered data points second. Maybe connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires accepting that nobody's perfect, including us. That's what I'm learning. That's what I'm trying to teach now. And if my story helps even one person approach dating with more empathy, more openness, more humanity, then maybe I can start to undo some of the damage I caused. Maybe redemption is possible. Maybe connection is still possible. Maybe we can build something better than what we've created. Have you given up on dating, or do you know someone who has? What do you think needs to change? Share your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, subscribe for more honest conversations about modern relationships.